Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another dangerous discussion in bed with B. I'm your host, B, and tonight we have a juicy conversation on cheating, communication in partnership, consideration, and also compromise. I'm super excited to be in bed with you all, but before we get underneath the sheets, let's go ahead and have our edge of the bed conversation. Let's consent to having a good time, enjoying ourselves, being open and honest. Let's have a J roll. I hope you have on something cozy. I hope you have some candles burning, some incense burning, some tea brewing, and whatever else it is that you feel like you need to get comfy, cozy. Let's pull up the covers and get into it. All right, so we're going to start off the conversation talking about cheating. Before I did this discussion, I looked up the definitions and types of cheating, and there were some on there that I had no idea were considered cheating. It was everything from fantasizing to cyber infidelity, following exes on social media, literally all of those things and more, including like the ones that I did know, emotional micro cheating, which one I did not know, physical cheating, flirting was actually considered a form of cheating. And some of those I care about, and there are a lot of those that I don't actually care about. I had to stop and think in the partnerships that I've been in if these are things that I truly care about. And I don't care if my partner follows their ex on social media. I don't care at all. Like, that has nothing to do with me. If you are my partner's ex and you're following him on social media, oh, sis, you're about to get mad. Like, that's kind of how I feel about it. Like, follow at your own risk type of thing. The same with my exes. I feel like if you're following my social media, baby, follow at your own risk because it's going to be your feelings getting hurt. So that's stuff that I don't care about. I personally don't follow any of my exes on social media just because I couldn't care less. However, I have been involved in certain cheating forms in my past relationships. It's nothing that I'm exactly proud of, but it's definitely something that I've done. In my first serious relationship, I think we settled down too quickly. And it was an entry level relationship into the early years of our adulthood. We were in a very serious relationship. And I just think that I've said this before, we didn't have a sturdy foundation of what to go off of. And so we did have some mess ups along the way. And yeah, I cheated early on in my dating career. And there was one situation that was in specific that I can think of, and it was very pivotal for our relationship. It was after I had my abortion and had multiple jobs. We rarely were spending time together at this point. I was going through a lot emotionally, mentally, physically. He was working all the time. And one night I was getting ready to get him up for work and I packed his lunch and I had the alarm set to wake him up and all of the things. And his phone started going off and I went through his phone. And I wasn't actually one, and I'm still to this day, I don't go through phones. I feel like I have better things to do with my time and I don't go through phones. I think that that also speaks to just how secure I am as a person, even after experiencing situations where, like, no, you should have went through his phone, or, even beyond that, like, you should have had a conversation. But there was one time when I went through his phone, there was a text message to him from another girl, and she was saying she couldn't wait to see him at whatever party that they were getting ready to go to or going to be at together. He was asking her what kind of bottles he should bring and telling her how pretty she was. And that's where something just lit me up because we had just gone through a procedure together. I am not myself. We are not spending any time together. And when we are, he's sleeping. So I feel like it's one of those things where something just switched in me. And I didn't flinch right away. I literally just let the situation go. I woke him up as normal. I made his lunch and got him ready and all the things and sent him on his merry way. However, later on, when I did blow up the situation, please believe I did. This was before I had done any work on myself or had any awareness about decisions and actions. I went in and I had no regrets, no remorse. That was one of those times where it was like, you really are dangerous. But it was dangerous in a different form of how I feel like I am dangerous right now. That was a really pivotal point of our relationship. Then it was about getting even because back then I had no awareness of emotional intelligence. I didn't want to hear his side. His side of things didn't matter. It only mattered to me how I felt in that moment. And that was it. That was a wrap. I wasn't even going to cheat on him. I was going to make sure that when I cheated on him, I was going to one up the situation. And when I talk to people about this situation now, it's funny because the things that I was doing was light. It was definitely light work. Mine was more emotional cheating, flirting, and micro cheating. There was nothing that I did physical. It didn't go as far as it could go, or that he thought that it went, and probably still thinks that it went to this day, but it never did. If I did have advice for myself back then, something that would have bettered the situation instead of fighting fire with fire, it would have been to be better at communication. And I'm not saying that communication would have absolved all cheating aspects, because it wouldn't have. It just would have been me saying, I don't tolerate this disrespect, and it would have helped in some ways. Transitioning into communication, we're always communicating. We are communicating with something or someone all the time, every single day. It is effective communication that requires you being able to voice your thoughts and concerns in a healthy way to someone who has the ability to reflective listening. And I'm not sure where they teach reflective listening skills in the world, but reflective listening and listening in general is a part of communication. People think that communication has to do with just the verbals and the nonverbals. Listening is a part of communication too. I learned personally how to be a reflective listener by being certified in breath work. One of the prerequisites for passing my certification with breath work was ensuring that we had reflective listening skills. I got really good at it to the point where I don't only use it with my clients, but I also use it with my friends and my loved ones. And seeing how they respond to me when I am reflective listening and in the moment listening to what they're saying, not listening to react, but actually listening to what they have to say, it changes the dynamic of the conversation because I can pick up where they left off when they lose their thought. And that's major because it shows, oh, okay, like she cares about what I'm saying or where I was going off on a tangent. Like she's right there going off on a tangent with me. It's so many things about that. Reflective listening skills. If you don't have them or know what that is, look it up and do a deeper dive on that, because I think that everyone needs a little brush up or just kind of an understanding of what reflective listening skills are. When people finish sentences, this is one of my biggest pet peeves because it takes so much effort for you to be in my mind and also your own mind trying to think about what I'm getting ready to say next. That's counterproductive. That shows me that you don't actually have reflective listening skills, or let alone good, solid listening skills to begin with, but also you're doing too much. My last partner was habitual for this, trying to finish my sentences or trying to tell me what I was getting ready to say. It was something that was generational for him because that's something that his mother did. It was extremely annoying, extremely inconsiderate, and the majority of the time he was wrong in completing my sentences. But he was trying to hurry me along and hurry the conversation along because he didn't care about what was being said next. That devalues what I have to say, my thoughts, my concerns, anything that I feel. That devalues all of that because you're just trying to get to your point at the end of the day. Then he would have these moments where he would be like, what are you thinking? And there would be times where I said nothing because I didn't think that he would respect my thoughts, or I didn't feel like I would be able to talk freely and him not want to correct me or hurry along the conversation or anything like that. There was also one time where he told me that I talk at a slower pace. This was funny because I probably do talk at a slower pace, but only because I don't think before I speak. I feel like I am my most raw and authentic self to just speak directly off the dome. I'm typically not putting too much thought into it. I'm not putting too much energy into it. I want you to hear my most raw and intimate thoughts as I have them. And so if I'm speaking slowly, it's because I'm processing it in real time as you are hearing it. But that's not something that everyone understands. It made me feel like I needed to rush my process and change how I was doing things because he didn't understand the way that I was communicating. And I'm a very introspective person, so I'm always in my head. I'm pretty much trying to figure things out. If I'm quiet, if I am more reserved in a conversation or in an environment, it's really just me trying to figure it out because I feel that I am very deep. I know that I am very deep. And I also feel like there are times where people can't keep up in the conversations that I want to have. I typically don't do surface conversations. I really am trying to go deep right away. One, because that's how you really get to know people. But two, I don't want to waste my time on how is the weather today. Typically, if I'm in those situations and there is conversation happening, I won't engage. I will not engage in communication that I feel like is a waste of my time because people are not going as deep as I want to go. There is a Alina Baraz lyric that says, I can only reach you as deep as you have met yourself. And if you've been listening, you already know that I am a lyric fanatic. I'm always speaking in lyrics. I love them. And they apply so much to the concepts that I talk about, but it's true. How can I reach you and speak to you as deep as I am if you don't know yourself in that capacity? That sounds like something that you would need to work on. And I've definitely worked on my communication for sure. Just the example that I gave earlier when I was speaking about cheating. If my communication skills were better, I would have been able to communicate myself better. And I wouldn't have felt that I needed to cheat on my partner to get my point across. It would have been something that I was able to verbally say, but I didn't have those skills at that time. Now, when I'm talking to people, I want to be the one that's telling them first. I want to tell you all the juicy details that you want to know. And not in an oversharing way, but things that are relevant. But I'm going to tell you all the details. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm at a place in my life where I'm just like, take it or leave it. It is what it is. I don't have to be the one to make you think that there weren't skeletons in my closet at one point. I'm at the place where, no, I've exposed all of the skeletons that were ever in my closet. The narrative has been set. I am the one who writes the story, and you can take it or leave it. Because I don't want you to have to guess later on, especially when we're thinking about partnerships and relationships. I don't want you to have to guess what happened or why I did something the way that I did something. You're going to know. And it's also because I want you to have a better understanding of the person that you're dealing with. In relation to bettering my communication skills, I really mastered the art of observation because there is so much you can learn by just observing somebody in their natural habitat or not in their natural habitat. I made it a point in all of my relationships and partnerships to learn my partner. Communication is beyond just verbal words. It's nonverbal, it's written, it's body language, it's all of those things. And so I made it a point to observe my partners. I did it as if I was researching something that I love a lot. And while I'm taking the time to observe them, I'm observing how they talk to me and how they talk to other people, how they handle me and how they handle other people, what their body language looks like when they're telling me certain stories, where it's easeful, where it's a little tension, where they feel like they need to embellish some stories or embellish things that may have happened. All of that. I know the way that they text, everything. I have made notes. It is a mental note somewhere on file for a specific person. The other thing that I learned with the art of observation, that sometimes it's of value for you to play dumb. I learned a lot by playing dumb, especially in my first relationship. I will play dumb all the time because when you play dumb, people just randomly tell you something. and they sometimes tell on themselves. Things that you may have wanted to know or hadn't been able to kind of crack the codes about, they will randomly just tell you that information. Not because you're asking them, just because you are acting like you don't know what you know. And that was a major cheat code for me in relationships. I didn't use that cheat code always effectively, but sometimes, depending on the situation, I will still pull it out just to see if you are going to tell me what I already know. So don't underestimate the points of playing dumb, but also be able to then communicate the whys and the why nots for it's all said and done, because that's what I didn't do the first time around. I never went back and did okay, well, I already knew this was happening or this was not happening, or you were here when you said you were there. I already knew all of that. And I never circled back to be like, and this is how, you know? It's important to really study in any situation, whether it is something that is a toxic situation or whether it's something that is flourishing. Study your partner, because it also works the opposite way of better learning about them when it comes time to purchase gifts, or when it comes time to remember something that gives them joy or gives them peace or makes them feel happy. You want to remember those moments and you want to observe how they are when they're doing certain things so you can commemorate those experiences later. The moments that we have right now are just becoming sweet memories later, hopefully. Why wouldn't you want to observe and study your partner the same way that you observe and study anything else? Even if you're not a study person, think about your job, think about your career. As much energy and effort as you put into your career and your job, put that same amount into love, put that same amount into partnership and helping your situation flourish. It is a beautiful transition when you master that art. Don't sleep on that. Let's transition into consideration. So, in my experiences, opposites attract. And there's been various times where I liked things that my partner has not liked, and vice versa. The issue becomes when they expect us to do every single thing together, which has its time and its place. If you are a union, it is natural for you to have shared interests and shared hobbies. However, I believe that it is natural to have separate interests, separate friend groups, etc., because you still want to be able to commune in the wild. I've been in situations where it was just me and my partner, and we kind of tuned the outside world out and kept everything in house. And while I think that that was effective in some ways, it was kind of ineffective in other ways because we were out the loop. Just because we're in a union doesn't mean that we can't allow time and space to do things that we want to do or want to experience that other times we would not have done if we were just spending all of our time with our partner. The important thing to note here is not to shut one another out or shut each other down for liking to do things that we like to do. There's going to be times where, let's say, something exciting happens. For example, with me, I remember when I was just starting up in my business, I was talking to my ex-partner a lot about it. And he was not excited whatsoever, but it was still like, damn, let me get my shit off about what I learned today about my new career path that is very scary for me and very exciting for me to go down. Are you supporting me or not? That's pretty much what I needed to know. And more oftentimes than not, it was him feeling like this new endeavor was replacing him. And it was never doing that. It was just me being like, I'm so excited to do this because I've always wanted to, and I would love you to come along. But in my opinion, consideration and partnership looks and feels like doing something you know your partner would appreciate or be grateful for. It's putting intentional thought and effort into your words and your actions. Consideration could come in many forms, like showering together after a long and stressful day to decompress and just needing that time together if that's the only time that you have in that day, because that can happen, especially with busy schedules. It could also be sleeping on the phone together when you're in a long distance relationship to feel close. It could be situations that are more grand gestures I had a man take me on a trip and he did research to secure a certain hotel room that had everything that I loved in it. It had ocean views, balconies, cityscapes, soaking tubs inside the shower room, you name it. And I loved it because it was considerate. It was considerate of this is the type of trip that I know that Brittany would like to have. Of course, we could just go on a trip or we can be in any hotel room or whatever, but don't just do things just to do things and then expect me to love them every time. I love things with meaning. I feel like we all do. Get some intentionality in there. And even for women, find out what your man likes or your person likes and really hone in on that so you can nail it more often than not. Consideration can feel different from women to men. In my experience, my partners wanted to know that I valued them and their thought leadership and the ability to protect and provide for me. Because from my perspective, when a man provides for me, I can feel it. I can feel that he cares for me. How else am I going to know if we're not having children together? You're going to have to show and prove beyond intention that you can execute something from our last discussion, that you can provide for me and that you are good at it. And then I have this conversation with a lot of my friends that are women about their delivery to their partners. A man's ego, it is something to be nurtured for sure. Your delivery, whether that be in discussion, whether that be in debates, disputes, all of that. Your delivery matters. If you sit there and diminish your man's ego while he's trying to show you that he is considering your needs, or to his best ability that he's thinking that he's considering your needs, and you are just sitting there and diminishing his ego, he's not going to want to do anything. He's not going to want to consider you at all. It's important to have that balance of checking your delivery, because most men that I know, they don't even want their women to do hardly anything. Literally just be queens. All the women have to do is check their delivery and watch what that man does for you. Delivery is important. It is a form of consideration, because I know that you don't want me to talk to you crazy. And I know from experience, because I have a very sharp tongue and I have learned when to use it and when not to use it. A lot of me dating in entry level relationships and earlier on in my 20s and things like that, I had no concept of being able to use my words wisely. I was using them as I felt them. And I'm a very passionate person, and so when I was feeling them, I was coming in hot and I was not worried about anything. But if it was on the opposite end, I wanted my man to treat me and consider his thoughts and words and actions while he was dealing with me. So it needs to be something that is reciprocated on the opposite end. With the concepts that we have talked about, and even with cheating, a healthy solution is realizing that compromise is key in partnership. Everything can't always be one sided, it cannot always be about you. And it's okay to do even what you may not like at times because you're considering that your partner does. I know very little about sports, and yet I've watched games live and been courtside. I've watched First Take. I've watched games on TV, all of those things, just simply because I knew that that's something that my partners enjoyed. I've always seemed to love men who love sports that don't miss games. It had to be one of those things where this may not be my thing, but let him watch his Sunday football or the playoffs, or listen to Stephen A's annoying ass voice, like, fine. That's how we're going to start our Friday. I never complained about any of that, just because, like, we're still spending quality time together. And during that time, I don't have to actively be watching the TV. I can be doing anything else that I feel like I wanted to do at that time. So this quality time together was another way for quality time. One of my exes, he didn't listen to Rihanna, but he went to the anti tour with me. And I've gone to some of the best steakhouses, have only eaten salads and fries just because I knew that my partners liked meat. And I've also fucked up my sleeping schedule because one of my exes was a fan of the nighttime and I had a blast during most of those nights. So it comes with balance. Compromise is definitely about balance, and it can become detrimental when you're actually compromising yourself and not just the things that you may not do usually. That's when compromise is not so fun. And that's why communication is important, because it's understanding where you have given too much and not received the reciprocity in return. So it all ties together. The reciprocity doesn't only come in terms of monetary value, but it also comes in the capacity that you have for yourself that you extend to others. And so if you feel like you are emotionally, mentally, physically compromised by your partner, that is something to reevaluate. That's when you need to put your big boy and girl pants on and say, okay, I have had enough of this being this way, and I need you to show up here for me in this way instead. That is our discussion for the evening. I really want to hear from you all how these concepts are landing in these discussions for you. And we're going deeper and we're getting background stories and personal stories and shares about the things that I've experienced and gone through along the way. And I don't have all of the answers, but I do think that it is important to shed light on what I have experienced. I told you all in the first discussion that I am a host for a dating app and I do in-person events. And so I had an in-person event last week and I was hosting, and I just started talking to one of my bartenders for the event, and she was asking me how it went afterwards and if any love connections were made and so on and so forth. And I said, I'm just here to be the wing woman and to make people feel good and to share that the point of having good communication and storytelling is literally just about selling yourself. It's about telling your story. That's how you sell yourself to people. And that's when you start to build good communication, because people are able to relate to what you are saying and have that common interest, which builds sturdy foundations. At those events, I always feel like Hitch, because that's essentially what I'm doing. Like, it's sometimes love connections, but it's deeper than that. When you're out in the world and you're ready to enter new relationships and new partnerships, sometimes it's not the person that you'll exactly meet that's going to be your partner, but they may know someone. So still make that friend and still make that network connection. Even further, it was a beautiful reminder for me to understand why I'm even having these discussions to begin with, because someone somewhere is needing to hear exactly what is being said. When I was talking to this woman and she was sharing about her past relationships and just experiences, there were a lot of commonalities. That was my first time meeting her, and I was like, you know what? This is the reason why. This is one of the reasons why that I'm doing what I'm doing and I'm having all this fun, because I know that I'm not the only one. I know that I'm not the only one having these experiences. And sometimes it just feels good to talk about. There were a lot of things that I would have never talked about that I find myself talking about now that would have plagued me a long time ago. But now that I've found my voice and the courage to just speak about those things, I am not weighed down by them at all. I feel empowered that I'm able to share my story and able to know that it matters. No matter who the audience is or what the numbers look like at this time, I'm not even worried about that. I'm more so worried about me being able to have an impact on the people that need the impact in their lives at that time. I know that I'm doing what I need to be doing when I see that happen. Let's go ahead and pull back the covers. I'm going to meet you back here next week, Thursday, for another discussion in bed. Episode is coming out on Valentine's Day week, the week of love. And I've been seeing some really funny comments on Instagram about Valentine's Day, and then some really beautiful ones. But it's not that deep, y'all. It is just a day. If you don't have a person or a partner to love during this week and love on during this week, love your damn self, because you deserve it. You deserve all the love that you are ready to give someone else. And of course, In the words of Mama RuPaul, if you don't love yourself, how the hell you gonna love somebody else? Okay. All right. I love y'all big. I'll see you Thursday.